Ivan van Sertima, the father of American Pseudo-Afrocentrism, has made claims that Africans sailed to Mesoamerica and introduced pyramids. He claims that black Egyptians built the first pyramids, inspiring the natives to build their own.
The first pyramid to appear in America appears right at La Venta on the very same ceremonial platform where the stone heads first appear. In the first of the sequence, although they find later Thresopotis and San Lorenzo, the first of the sequence of the stone heads is at La Venta, and both the conical pyramid as well as the step pyramid appear. They said, well, but the functions are not the same. It's just a temple in America, it's a tomb in Egypt. That is not true. We have found many pyramids could be cited in America which serve both as tomb as well as temple. And in Egypt, many of the great pyramids have temples adjoining. So they have both the tomb and temple combination. And the great ones, the very great ones, the one at Teotihuacan in Mexico and the one at Giza or Gizeh in Egypt, they not only have the same base, the identical base, but they also have the third function, the geodetic marker, or the use of the movable capstone for astronomy, the notches, etc. They said at first that the Teotihuacan pyramid was 1 meter off from the Egyptian pyramid. Now they're allowing that meter because of mistakes in the reconstruction and excavation. It means it's roughly the same base as the Egyptian pyramid.
Mesoamerican pyramids built by Africans? Not the case. Pyramids were independently designed on different continents in different time periods for different purposes. Furthermore, pyramids became the ideal blueprint of ancient engineers from around the world who were trying to build towering structures. This ideal arose after many failed attempts to build high-rise buildings collapsed when their stone columns failed. The ancients settled for the pyramid structure because the pyramid has a broad base that can hold up the weight of the entire narrowing upper half of the structure, which weighed less. You have to consider the fact that iron beams and reinforced concrete weren't invented yet. Indigenous Mesoamericans used pyramids mainly as the centerpiece of cities and to mark the seasons and to align to the heavens. Even the ancient mound builders such as the Mississippians often used their pyramid mounds to be the centerpiece of their cities and to mark the growing season, and also to mark their cosmology. While North Africans used pyramids as a tomb for emperors and to align to certain star constellations such as Orion's belt. However, there were a few exceptions of ancient cultures who did manage to build high-rise buildings, such as the Romans and Anasazi, who were able to build multi-story buildings using their respective complex architectural engineering skills. The Romans were able to build a few buildings up to 10 floors. But they had to use the arch design that was built into the walls to hold up the weight of a 10-story structure. But it was still a struggle for the Romans to build multi-story buildings. The Anasazi of the American Southwest were able to build huge stone buildings up to 6 floors, but they had to build square room sections stacked on one another, with some parts of the building having more floors than other parts. These Anasazi buildings were spread out apartment complexes which distributed the weight on many stone and wooden beams. Some buildings were designed like a horseshoe layout to support the weight of a huge 6-story building. The Anasazi used stone walls held up with wooden and stone beams, but they couldn't build towering structures that went straight up on all sides of their buildings. These Anasazi buildings still rivaled the buildings of the Romans and Greeks. Most large civilizations of the ancient world, at least before the Middle Ages, were able to build at least 2- or 3-story stone buildings using either wood or stone beams, such as the Mali and Egyptians. Black supremacists such as the Hoteps and Sarah Sitanseti have claimed that black people built all the pyramids of the world, from the Americas to Eurasia. That's not the case. Here is why.
Like I said, there are pyramids all over the place. Peru, China, Egypt, Indonesia. How come? There are 2 reasons: God and the laws of physics. The cultures that built pyramids believed their gods were in the heavens, What better way to reach them than to build up to the sky? That's why the Tower of Babel was built, to reach God. So, okay, you want to reach the gods by building to the heavens. Why build a pyramid? That's where the laws of physics come in. You see, we're all governed by the same laws of physics. Ancient Egyptians, Aztecs, Chinese. Pyramids were ancient skyscrapers. But without modern materials like steel beams, they couldn't go straight up. So in the ancient world, if you wanted to build really impressive, it had to have a broad base and get narrower at the top. Basically, a pyramid shape. Just try building a 400-foot column out of stone blocks. You can't do it. As you pile the blocks higher and higher, the bottom blocks bear all the weight, and collapse is inevitable. The key to success is to distribute the weight over several blocks so that each stone rests on several others, which is exactly what a pyramid does. So, if you want to reach your God by building up to the sky, the laws of physics lead you down one path: Pyramid Lane. All over the ancient world, people were building pyramids because they were people solving similar engineering problems in similar ways. And why are the big ones about the same size? I have an idea. It's a matter of how big you can build in one ruler's lifetime. But we still haven't solved the whole pyramid mystery. Size and shape aren't the only similarities among the pyramids of the ancient world. For example, ancient architects all over the world oriented their pyramids to the 4 points of the compass. The Chinese thought evil influences came from the north, so they oriented their pyramids to avoid them. Mexico's Pyramid of the Sun was carefully planned to be exactly 15 degrees east of true north. Why? So the sun would rise over the pyramid in May, the beginning of the rainy season. The Egyptians oriented their pyramids for another reason. They were obsessed with eternity and life after death. The North Star never sets, and the pharaohs wanted to be associated with it. The Maya were obsessed with time, dates, calendars. That's why they oriented their pyramids to the heavens. But Maya pyramids do something no other pyramids in the world do. They put on a magic show. Twice a year, people from all over the world gather at Mexico's Chichen Itza to see something really amazing. The Maya were great mathematicians. They invented the number 0. And this pyramid is a coded message written in numbers. There are 91 steps on each side of the pyramid. 91 times the 4 sides equals 364. Plus the temple on top gives you a 365-day calendar. Now, count the number of terraces beside the stairway. 9 on each side equals 18, the number of months in the Maya calendar. So we've got the number of days and months in a year built into the pyramid. The pyramid is your handy-dandy calendar computer.
It is a fact that Africans weren't the first to build pyramids. The world's first pyramids were built 5,000 years ago by indigenous American engineers in ancient Peru. The ancient Peruvian pyramids are older than the Egyptian pyramids of Giza.
Caral, Supe, the oldest civilization in the Americas. The city of Caral, capital of one of the world's oldest civilizations, lies in the Supe River Valley, located between the North Central Andes and the Pacific Ocean, and only 182 kilometers from the city of Lima. Ruth Shadi, a Peruvian archaeologist, came to this place in 1994, and there she made one of the most important archaeological discoveries in history.
This city was previously designed Its construction was planned, and this shows us that there was a social hierarchy and a government, as well as an organized labor force. This is something that is demonstrated throughout the entire work, and is so well highlighted that visitors can actually see it. 5,000 years ago, when the Sumerian cities in Mesopotamia, or the pyramids in Giza, in Egypt, were being built, here, urban centers like this one at Caral, which would have been one of the most important, were being constructed in this valley and others in the north-central region of Peru. This changes all our known history, because Caral now becomes the main culture, which Julio Cetello had already identified some decades before in Chavin de Huántar. Now, we know that Chavin de Huántar was a continuation of a much older cultural tradition that would have begun 5,000 years ago. It is enough to visit Caral to have an idea of what the cultural process was that 4,400 years later gave rise to the Inca Empire.
Caral was the first city, with the first central government ever to be created. Caral changes all our current thinking about the origins of civilization.
Because it seems that 5,000 years ago, they had no need for warfare. Caral enjoyed a peace that lasted almost a millennium. An achievement unmatched in the modern world.
That's a period of 1,000 years of peace. I can't have 1,000 years of peace if warfare is natural to human beings. Warfare is part of human nature. You don't get a millennium of no war.
Perhaps that is Caral's real legacy. Human civilization was not born in bloodshed and battle. Warfare was a later part of the human story. Great things can come from peace.
If Africans are the master pyramid builders, why didn't they build the largest pyramid in the world? The largest pyramid were not built by Africans. The largest pyramid in the world is found in Guatemala. The ancient Maya are credited with building the world's largest pyramid by volume.
Guatemalan archaeologists are making a fascinating discovery. Let's go to CNN's Brooke Baldwin. She traveled to Mirador and came back with an amazing story. Brooke, tell our viewers what's going on.
Wolf, I think I'm officially an archaeology geek. Our CNN crew, we're the first TV camera actually in the world to shoot the face of what may be the world's largest pyramid by volume. This pyramid, it is covered by the canopy of the jungle. It is currently facing several threats. From the air, it looks like just jungle, but these forests in Guatemala hide an ancient secret. The city of Mirador, often referred to as the cradle of Mayan civilization, the size of a modern-day metropolis. This is no mountain. It's a pyramid, and according to the Mirador Basin Project, it may be the largest pyramid by volume in the world. CNN is traveling with the project's director and lead archaeologist, Richard Hansen, and the founder of the Global Heritage Fund, Jeff Morgan.
The Pyramid Levante is a structure the world should know because it represents an investment of labor unprecedented in the world history. Every single stone in that building, from the bottom to the top, was carried by human labor.
And the work to save this pyramid is delicate, done by hand. Guatemalan archaeologists painstakingly help uncover pieces of history built by their ancestors. And the view from the top of La Danta, spectacular.
This is the summit of the Maya world.
Here at the top of La Danta, we are 72 meters, or about 224 feet, from the forest floor. And when we talk about sheer size of this area that is El Mirador, just one single Mayan city, archaeologist Dr. Richard Hansen says its size is larger than all of downtown Los Angeles, and he says there are still thousands of pyramids yet to be uncovered. Then Dr. Hansen shows us something few people have ever seen, a relic referred to as the Popol Vuh, the Mayan story of creation. Oh my gosh. CNN cameras are the first to capture this fresh discovery, which Hansen says will rewrite Mayan history. But this is the creation story.
This is the creation story, and it goes back to at least 300 to 200 BC.
For decades, historians believe the Popol Vuh was tainted by the Catholic views of Spanish conquistadors. Finding this frieze changes everything because it predates the Spanish arrival by more than a millennium. The challenge now is preserving this area, a jungle constantly under threat by narco-traffickers, loggers, and cattle ranchers. Hansen's guards are on constant standby to keep looters out.
Where we've had guards in cities throughout the basin, we've had no new looters trenches. Where we haven't had the resources for that, we have lost 100%.
Hansen has made Mirador his life's work and hopes to share these Mayan secrets with Guatemala and the world.
The science for the sake of science is sterile if it doesn't bless the lives of people. And by conserving this, we're blessing the lives of an entire nation.
Well, there you have it, folks. Africans did not sail to the Americas and introduced stone pyramids. Because the ancients were limited to stone columns that could not hold up the weight of a towering structure, the pyramid structure became the ideal blueprint. Nor did they sail to North America to build great earthen pyramids. Pyramids across the world were designed differently for different purposes. The Mesoamericans mostly built step pyramids made out of stone with a temple on top. Even the Mississippian culture of North America built earthen clay pyramids with a wooden temple on top. While Nubians and Egyptians built true pyramid-shaped structures with a pointed top, it left no room for temples. North Africans simply had no purpose to put temples on top of their pyramids like the Mesoamericans did. Egyptian and Nubian pyramids served for one main purpose, to be great tombs for the pharaohs. The Egyptians only had two pyramid designs, the step pyramid with no temple on top and the true pyramid, all of which was designed to be tombs for great pharaohs. It just doesn't make sense that Egyptians and Nubians would sail to the Americas to build thousands of different shaped pyramids which were made for different purposes. The only cultures in Africa to build pyramids were the Nubians and Egyptians. They built over 200 pyramids, while indigenous American cultures from across the Americas built thousands of stone pyramids and earthen mound pyramids. The final nail in the coffin. Olmec DNA has been found. A few years ago, scientists at the National Autonomous University of Mexico found 2 Olmec remains and did DNA testing on them, and they discovered the Olmecs possessed Native American mitochondrial DNA, which is haplogroup A. Not to mention that all ancient remains found in Mesoamerica were DNA tested to be Native American. Thousands of DNA scientists from around the world have performed tens of thousands of DNA tests and dental trait studies on ancient remains from across the Americas. These DNA and dental trait studies tell us the same thing, that only Native Americans existed in pre-Columbian Americas. Finally, thousands of peer-reviewed scientific studies have not found any African ships or ports in the Americas during pre-Columbian times. These ancient copper aboriginals and hoteps are once again exposed. They are just culture vulture racial supremacists with a goal to erase Native America. Nuff said. Now let's pay tribute to both sub-Saharan African cultures and indigenous American cultures. Thanks for watching.
It is another world, thriving with 100 million people, connected by elaborate roads, bridges, and social networks spanning continents, with monumental cities aligned to the heavens, and some of the greatest civilizations on Earth. This is America, more than 500 years ago. Native Americans create America's first democracy that later inspires the United States Constitution. Shape Mississippi swampland into the largest pyramids on the planet. Carve Andean mountain slopes into fields that feed millions. And domesticate plants that now provide 60% of the world's food. They elevate America's natural beauty into spiritual beliefs that echo across 10,000 years. And dig deep into those beliefs to survive the worst loss of life from disease and genocidal warfare in history.
We are not dead. We're often referred to in the history books in the past tense. But here we are in the present, and we're going full force. You know, we're still here.
The Inca traditions, the Inca knowledge has never disappeared. It's still alive. It's not a religion, it's a way of life.
When I come out onto the water, there's a connection to my ancestors, a relationship that goes through my blood and my veins.
As a Comanche woman, this just completes me because all of my relatives were here. They probably prayed for us and prayed that someday we would be here and our culture would continue.
The people that have lived here have understood this place, and this knowledge has been accumulated over thousands of years. The past is also part of the present.
This is a new vision of America and the people who built it. This is Native America.
Africa, where the human race began. Nearly 1 billion people live here. And it's a continent with an incredible diversity of communities and cultures. Yet we know less of its history than almost anywhere else on Earth. But that's beginning to change. In the last few decades, researchers and archaeologists have begun to uncover a range of histories as impressive and extraordinary as anywhere else on Earth. It's a history which has been neglected for years, and it's largely without written records. But it is preserved for us in the gold and statues, in the culture, art, and legends of the people. My name is Gus Casely-Hayford. Over many years, I've studied the history and culture of Africa. As an art historian, I'm used to drawing stories from mute objects from the past. I'm going to discover the history and find out what really happened to the lost kingdoms of Africa. I'm beginning my search in the far north of the continent, in what is now known as the Sudan. I'm looking for the legendary kingdom of Nubia. Nubia is the traditional name for the northern part of Sudan, near the Egyptian border. For thousands of years, a civilization dominated the area there, in what's now the Eastern Sahara. It's first mentioned by the ancient Egyptians as a primitive outpost, a source of slaves and treasure, dancing girls and wrestlers. To the Romans too, it was a barbarian wasteland. Yet these people were conquerors in their own right, ultimately defeated not by their rivals, but by their environment. Nubia has left us some of the most spectacular monuments, not only in Africa, but in the whole world. There are more pyramids here than there are in Egypt. This was a major civilization, but its history is barely remembered. So what was Nubia actually like? How powerful was it? And what happened to it in the end?